everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. Today is a really auspicious day. Today is December 21st, which represents the winter solstice. So it's officially the shortest day of the year, and thankfully the days will start getting longer from here. It's a perfect day to take it easy, to go within and follow this small solar arc that we have today, which means very little output and a lot of input. So it's really a day about allowing yourself to rest, relax, recuperate, and receive. It's sort of the Earth's, ebb point, where it's at its lowest point in the northern hemisphere. So allow yourself to flow with that energy. And of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're having a completely different experience where it's very much about expansion and putting your energy out there. And so again, follow that solar arc and allow your energy to be more fully expressed today. Focus on what you can give out, while those of us in the shorter part of winter are meant to be focusing on what we can receive. Also, we have the last lunation of 2022 coming up in just a few days. On Friday, the 23rd of December, is going to be the new moon in Cancer. And it's such a beautiful energy to end the year with. We don't always end... That's my cat. Can you stop? We don't always end with a new moon energy. It's different every year, but this year we're ending with a new moon, and it just gives us more emphasis on what we want to create going into 2023. So it's a great time to either focus on your goals if you haven't already, or to revisit the goals that you are designing for the year ahead. And with this lunation, with this lunar energy being in Cancer, it allows us to go deeper within naturally. We're going to connect to our inner world even more naturally and be able to tap into that intuitive self. So really touching on our own intuition and really getting a feel for what is lighting us up, rather than following external leads about what you should focus on or be doing. This really allows you to get in touch with who you really are and what you desire to create in your life based on your own desires and needs. I don't know if you guys can hear it. My cats are like having a full out brawl in the background, so I apologize. By the way, there will be a new moon spirit circle on Friday, December 23rd at 6 p.m. Pacific time if you'd like to join us, because we will be tapping into that energy of the looking at goals and feeling in with our deep, authentic self. And of course, there will always be live Q&A afterwards, so you can ask me any question that you have, and I will tap into my team in spirit and give you answers from the psychic side. This is my cat, Skippy. He's the one making all the ruckus in the background, but he's adorable. Look at that face. He's so handsome. So this week, we're going to continue with the secrets found in your natal chart series. And today, we're going to be focusing on some secrets you can find in your moon sign. Your moon sign is the key to your emotional satisfaction. A lot of times it is said that it represents your emotional self. Oftentimes it can represent our unconscious behaviors of how we work with people emotionally, especially if we've got unrealized attachment styles or dependency issues. It can often highlight to us how we can even manipulate people emotionally. It can also be the pathway for you to understanding and gaining inner fulfillment and illuminate your way of changing without interrupting your life path. So by following the guidance of your moon, you can actually spiritually grow without feeling like you're disrupting your life to do so. Your moon sign can also hold in it keys to a past life that may lead to issues where you have insecurities or emotional dependencies. So what I want to go over with you today is the past life that's most likely connected to your moon sign. So each of our signs holds a little bit of past life information for us, like keys to a past and what we're coming here to work through. So it teaches us how to grow in an emotional space based on where we've just come from, or a pattern of past lives. Because sometimes in a past life, you know, in between the life stages, every time we reincarnate, we go back to wherever we are from energetically, and we review the physical life that we had. And we try to remember, oh, right, that's what I came here for. This is the one piece that I was trying to shift or create growth from. And because, you know, we have the veil of forgetting and the veil of confusion while we're here, we often don't remember. And so we'll almost repeat energy over and over again. I mean, they say something like some lives lived here, we've lived lives like somewhere around 75,000 lives, I've heard. In some cases, not all of us, but in some cases, we can come back again and again and again trying to clear a pattern or get information that allows us to spiritually mature. And our past lives hold a key to something you're trying to remember. So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about not only the past life energy it's connected to, but how it's asking you or showing you you can evolve in this life. So again, you're going to want your natal chart. If you already know your moon sign, great. You can skip forward to the part where it's connected to your moon sign by using the handy dandy chapters that I put in the description. And if you don't have your natal chart but would like to get one for free, you can check out this video right up here. And that will take you to a couple of websites I recommend that do free natal charts so that you can look it up easily and get that information for yourself. If you have a moon in Aries, what you can know about your past lives is that you've had one or multiple past lives where battlegrounds and combat or striving for a personal goal has been at the forefront of that life. And many times the tactic that you would take during these lifetimes was to suppress your strength, which may be something that you do in this life, sort of hide what you've got, sort of like hiding your hand, right? In order to read the quote unquote enemy's tactics. Unfortunately, if this is a tact you find yourself using unconsciously now, that you're hiding your own strength, it can actually invite provocation from the outside world and makes your life feel as if others tend to walk all over you. Also, because you reaching your personal goals, and a lot of times they were connected to survival needs in these other lifetimes, you can misread sometimes opposition to your current goals as a threat to your own survival in this life. And so from those lives sort of came this sort of emotional baggage of there can only be one winner. It's a win-lose situation, things like that, where you feel almost pitted against someone or something else for your own goals to be met. The key to your spiritual growth in this lifetime to break that cycle is to learn that there is fulfillment in seeing other people reach their goals as well. So the idea of including others yields greater fulfillment in your life. And it requires of you to emotionally learn how to see the win-win. How can I win? How can I help others win? And you start to learn by helping others win, you feel that you have won. In the past lives, it was very much about cultivating your sense of identity. In this life, that sense of identity should be fully crystallized, allowing you to feel secure enough in yourself to help others. Allowing you to feel secure enough in yourself so you can focus on the needs of others as well. And in doing so, you learn how to be more diplomatic at expressing and communicating your wants and needs and being able to hear and receive the wants and needs of those around you, allowing you to develop the win-win strategy. If your moon is in Taurus, you can know that you had one or many past lives where you were actually quite affluent in the material sense. You probably came from lifetimes where you had a good amount of financial and material security, and therefore still seek to have that energy in your current life. Because for you, emotionally, you naturally associate financial stability with emotional stability. And because you have an affinity for accumulation, or you're used to that on an energetic level, you also seek to accumulate more in this life, and therefore might have a hard time with letting things go, even the things in your life that could be holding you back. In particular, what you're here to do or trying to grow spiritually is learning how to let go, but maybe not in the way that you think. Many times when people think about letting go or surrendering, they feel like they have to let go of maybe gains in their life, like material gains or monetary gains. And that's not necessarily true. Rather, it's the energetics behind those things that might need adjusting or changing or simply letting go. It's easy to have a lack mentality when you have a vibrational memory of abundance. So if your moon is in Taurus and you're not experiencing financial wealth and abundance in this lifetime yet, that can really trigger feelings of lack for you, and it can keep you in a really fearful space. So a big part of what you're here to do to emotionally grow is to learn how to let go of the feelings of lack and doubt and a lack of trust in yourself, primarily with yourself, so that you can experience the abundance that already resides not only within your spirit, but that resides in your energy. And once you have freed yourself from those negative energies, you can really start opening up your channels of abundance again. So your key to emotional spiritual growth is the money and learning how to go with the flow. And you want to recognize that your desire for material accumulation, for financial accumulation, is not wrong. It's a deeper desire for you because it connects back to emotional stability. But also you want to pay attention if you have a fear of loss. You know, there's stories I've heard where there are millionaires who have multiple millions but still fear loss. They never let go of the fear of lack, no matter how much they accumulate. Sort of a King Midas or an Ebenezer Scrooge mentality. And that's the thing that you want to recognize. Is this working within me? Because even though those two characters that I talk about, we really learn about overaccumulation from them or becoming miserly. That's not really your path. It's your path is that you are so afraid that what you've received will go, that you hold on tightly to it, which can come off as miserly, but really both of those characters fear loss. And so to understand money and the flow of money, you have to see it as a cycle, that it comes in, it flows out, and then it flows back in, and it's always in movement. And so by learning that money for you should always have a sense of movement and never stagnation, you're going to help yourself feel that emotional stability and be okay with the flow of money as it comes in and out of your life and back in. Because that's how it works. If it goes out, it has to come back, right? So just keep remembering that and notice how it grounds you in your emotional security. If you have a moon in Gemini, what you can know about yourself is you've had one or many past lives where wandering or travel as a means of communication and learning more was a big part of your past life experience. And you could have been anything from a adventurer, traveler, a wandering minstrel, a town crier, a teacher, right, of sorts. But all of these things kept you on the move. It was about dispensing the information you had and moving forward so that you could share the message wider. And so with that energy, though, comes this unconscious feeling of FOMO, fear of missing out, because for Moon and Gemini people, staying in one place can wreak havoc with you on an emotional level. You'll always be thinking about, what if I made this other choice? And so making choices is part of how you grow in this life, but it's also part of the challenge of why making choices are so hard for you, because of the energetic imprint of constantly being on the move to share, learn, or spread information. Gemini Moon people tend to have a grass is always greener mentality working on them at some point in their life. With this energy, there wasn't really a family unit so much because it was always about being on the move. And because of that, you were wired to sort of seek mental stimulation. If anything stayed the same for too long, you started to feel restless and needed to move on and get that new thrill. And that has carried forward for you in this lifetime as well. The key to your emotional, spiritual development is learning to connect more deeply with others. And that means learning how to ride through that fear of missing out. That, yes, there are surface delights everywhere, but the real treasures come from connecting in, from making a choice and going deeper into the experience to get deeper wisdom and knowledge. And by doing so, it's going to free you from this feeling that there's something that you're just missing, that you can't fully feel satisfaction in the choice that you made. You absolutely can. But it comes from that inner knowing that if I go deeper, there's something even greater to receive here. So in order to really connect more deeply with others in this lifetime, a big part of that is learning to connect more deeply with yourself, to really get to know the inner you, so that when you have an opportunity to choose deeper connection with others, it's an easier choice to understand, and your intuition will be activated, allowing you to choose wisely. If your moon is in Cancer, what you can know about one or multiple past lives you had is that there was a type of enforced dependency in one or a few of those past lives. And this could come in many different ways. Could come from a major injury you had that kept you dependent on others. It could come in the form of a handicap that you had. But whatever it is, or just the circumstances of the era making you very dependent on someone else for your own survival needs, whatever it is, that was activated. And in this lifetime, there is a fear of, if I don't have the sympathy or protection of others, that I will be somehow defenseless. And what it triggers in you emotionally is a need for some kind of guardian figure in your life, whether it be a parent or a protector of some sort, but feeling the need that you can't do this alone. You need someone else's help. And this might be a sort of love-hate feeling that you have inside of you, like a part of you very much wants to be independent. Of course you do. That's why you're here in this life. And yet this deep emotional fear that you hold, that what if I can't do it on my own? Your key to spiritual emotional growth in this life is learning how to get security from releasing your need for dependency. As a moon in Cancer, this is a very strongly nurturing and intuitive sign, and highly empathetic, which you still have to this day. But the goal here is to learn how to have deep compassion and empathy with others without creating a sense of bondage, of you being dependent upon this other person, or others being too dependent on you as well. And to do this, you must learn to develop your relationship to your inner authority and knowing what is truly best for you, and that sense of, I actually do know the best thing for me and the best way forward. You can also amplify that by leaning on a higher authority. For when you take that need for support out of the physical world and give it to the spiritual world by, choosing your higher power and resting in that when you feel too weak to go forward, you will find that internal strength that you need to feel your own independence, stand tall in yourself, and know that you've got what it takes to create the life you desire. And other people will be there to support and help you, but you don't need that to move forward in the way that you fear you might. If your moon was in Leo, what you can know about one or many of your past lives is you had a position of recognition. You may have been royalty in one of those lives. You may have been a well-known actor, actress, musician, politician, some kind of figure that accumulated much recognition in your life. And so on an unconscious level, you still desire that level of recognition in your life. And when you don't get it, you go into a deep sense of insecurity that no one sees you or truly appreciates you. And you even start to doubt yourself at that point. Your key to emotional spiritual growth is to find security as a byproduct of having higher goals than the goal of recognition. So you start to learn as you develop on your spiritual journey that recognition and validation from others is great, but it's not going to feed you at a deep spiritual level. And rather, it's how do I take this massive life force energy that I clearly hold and use it in a bigger way? How do I serve more than just my ego here? How can I be of service to something greater? And as you focus your attention on whatever that greater purpose is, you naturally feel the validation and the recognition because a part of you recognizes it. You will naturally attract it through taking the attention off of you and putting it onto something bigger that serves more people in a greater way. If you have a moon in Virgo, what you can know about one or many of your past lives is that you had work specifically that was beneficial and of service to other people, such as being an artisan or a craftsperson or even ministers and physical healers in particular all fall under the vibration of Virgo. A lot was leaning on you because you created so much for others. You are the pillars on which societies get built. And so the work that you did was instrumental in helping many people. And you still feel the pressure of that on an unconscious level today. In fact, you might have a really strong insecurity around being perfect. Like, I need to be perfect. I need to stay strong. I need to make sure these people's needs get met. I need to make sure that I'm doing everything I can. That is an unconscious emotional energy that can be playing out when you have a moon in Virgo, and it can be a great source of insecurity for you in this life. So part of your goal is learning how to express whatever detail or information that you have that is pertinent in the moment, even if you don't have the whole answer or the whole big picture, that the information you carry with you now is sufficient enough. Because of these past lives where you were not only pillars of society, but also looked up to, especially you may have been doctors or nurses or nuns in these past lives. And so because of that, there's an energetic energy of being at your best or being on your best behavior, showing your best side. And this can lead to a sense of feeling separate from others through an inflated sense of righteousness. And so one of your keys to emotional spiritual growth in this lifetime is releasing past life rigidity, letting that energy go of having to be the exemplary human. In this life, you're learning to relax. You're learning how to be more compassionate of yourself and your own shortcomings and mistakes, which allows you to feel more compassion and acceptance of other people and their mistakes. That it's like in this lifetime, you're learning to accept humanity as it is, rather than the ideal that you tried to live up to and maybe did live up to in so many lifetimes. It's letting go, allowing yourself to have fun and laugh at the foibles of life while continuing to provide excellent service, even if it's not perfect. If your moon is in Libra, you can know that you had one or many past lives where you were in sort of a shared partnership or service to others through your divine feminine, emotional energy. It could be in either traditional female supportive roles like mothers or wives, but it can even represent lives as diplomats or concubines, or someone who had the ear of someone in power. So this idea of being a support role was a big theme in your past lives. Because you always had to be there for another and in a consistent way, you unconsciously run the risk of sort of losing your true identity so that you can be a vibrational match to what other people need. And it might be something that you unconsciously do in this lifetime now. So part of your lesson here is to learn how to be able to express yourself in and who you truly are while being in relationship to another. So part of this is becoming more aware of your own needs and recognizing that when those needs aren't met, the relationship is lopsided or not whole. And when your needs aren't met, then the whole relationship suffers. So it's not just meeting another's needs, but also making sure your needs get met as well. So just like the sign of Libra with the scales, one of the lessons that you're here for spiritual emotional growth is to learn effective assertiveness. And that means that you're balancing the energy with another. So you're making sure that you're not just trying to be in relationships where you make everyone happy or you tiptoe around them or walk on eggshells or suppress your own needs, but rather learning how to effectively assert yourself, your boundaries, your needs and desires, without feeling like you're overtaking the other person, which isn't something that you tend to do. You tend to underplay yourself. And so part of it, to get balance, one of the things we do is we overcorrect in the other direction. So part of it is like, allow yourself to be assertive. Notice if you've overcorrected into that realm, and then come back to the balance where between that give and take. Libra is the master of coming up with a compromise or the win-win situation. So in your case, learning how to assert and then balance that is a big part of your spiritual growth path. If your moon is in Scorpio, you can know that you've had one or many lifetimes where there was intense emotional energy that created a sense of extreme battles or crisis in your life, even bringing you to the point of viewing something or someone as perhaps malicious or evil in your life, which caused you to withdraw your trust from others. And because you had to develop a really strong set of personal survival skills, you really honed your intuition in those lifetimes. Scorpio is a sign of an intense psychic, but also there is sort of this ability to manipulate energy on the psychic side and create something that might not actually be there. So because there isn't trust or understanding of the other side, but really a withdrawal into the self in those past lives, it can actually lead you to become a master of projection and seeing the worst in other people in order to protect yourself. When you see that kind of vision of others, it can cause you to really emotionally withdraw from people and even go into self-isolation. So to compensate for that isolation and probably deep loneliness that you felt in those lifetimes, you seek the ideal, you seek the soulmate. That becomes sort of a emotional journey that you go on, looking for that one other person that you can finally trust in your life, hoping that finding them, it will somehow bring you the peace that you truly seek. You might find that in this life, this is sort of still playing out on an unconscious level. And because of that, the approach to relationship can almost become obsessive and even destructive, sort of creating a mutual destruction or choosing people that you might have a strong emotional connection to, but they're not good for you. The key to your spiritual growth in this lifetime is learning positive bonding. And to do this, you need to go within and discover what is it you want to build with another person. Good idea is to have a spiritual goal for your close relationships. What do you want from this relationship spiritually, and that will help you seek someone who emanates the qualities that would be in alignment with that goal. And it's going to take time. So for a really truly fulfilling relationship, it's going to be a step-by-step process. And the goal is not to rush this process or skip ahead or project anything onto the other person, but to try and see them as they are through a clearer lens where you're not projecting anything onto them, especially your fears or doubts, but rather try to see them as both divine and human, as well as seeing yourself as divine and human. And by taking it slow and building the foundation, you will find that relationship that truly brings you peace of mind by aligning to something higher than just, I don't want to be alone, so I'm going to trust this person. If your moon is in Sagittarius, what you can know about one or many of your lifetimes is that you spent lives gaining and attaining spiritual understanding and wisdom, and may have very well been a spiritual leader, a spiritual teacher, a philosopher, or some type of spiritual authority in the world, and may have even misused that spiritual authority, sort of putting yourself above the law, which could account for blind spots around social mores in this lifetime. So there may be some unconscious patterns of sort of feeling socially awkward or rejected, and part of the growth path here is simply to learn how to recognize that you're not above the sort of social rules that we all have to follow, because in past lives you may not have followed those, causing an awkwardness. And once you see that, once you're aware of that, that blind spot you had to it in the past is dissolved and removed. And this might become what I'm saying about this not following social rules. For example, shamans, which are, great spiritual teachers and profound energetic and spiritual healers, are often known to go against the grain of society. So for example, when the sun is out, they act like it's raining, and when it's raining, they act like the sun is out. And so yes, it made them sort of open to a higher perspective or see more than what everyone else sees, but it also was sort of it makes them estranged, right? They end up being the one at the hut at the back, right? Far away from others, or into the woods, right? Reclusive kind of energy that separates them from society and keeps them feeling at some level like they're socially rejected. And that's the kind of unconscious stream of energy that can come through now. And when we feel that way, we can sort of feel like we're not a part of things, or feel rejection that might not actually be there. And so part of it in this life is recognizing that you can walk to the beat of your own drum, but kind of blend in, if you will, allowing you to feel that closer connection to community. It's like, I believe in extraterrestrial life. I believe they're out there, but I don't talk about it with everyone, because not everybody believes that. It's the things that you talk about with the people that you know are on that wavelength, but being able to socially blend in and, not share it at the family dinner table if no one else is vibing with you there, if that makes sense. Because of that awkwardness, there was also a longing to be understood. So there's always this need for you to understand where I'm coming from so that you can feel accepted. In this lifetime, the key to your spiritual growth is to focus on understanding the other's point of view. And in that way, you feel more understood. You feel somehow more seen in doing so. So rather than trying to find that social acceptance by sharing your point of view, you're more interested in trying to understand why someone doesn't see what you see. Really be interested in that. And in doing so, you spiritually grow, you feel free, and you truly feel accepted, because it's actually you creating the energy of acceptance first, and you are spreading that wave out to others. If your moon is in Capricorn, what you can know about one or many of your past lives is that you were in a position of ultimate control and authority, and that you still have a desire to have that maximum control and authority in your life, at least on an unconscious emotional level. You might have had one or many lifetimes as important political figures, being a figurehead, or someone who was in charge of major operations. Because of those positions, you have an energetic memory of receiving absolute respect and cooperation with no real pushback. And so on an unconscious level, you still expect to get that kind of energy in this life. And when you don't receive it, that creates a feeling of something being off and can trigger your sense of insecurity. Because of this, you tend to feel insecurity most in your relationships and try to be sort of the number one or the authority figure in that particular setting as well. So with this unconscious idea of being at the head or the front of everything, you tend to see your word as law and don't connect as strongly on an emotional level with other people, because you tend to shut down emotionally anyway. I mean, in those types of positions, being an open or soft or emotional person isn't necessarily the strongest position. And as far as like strategic or tactical energy, it's not the position you would come from. You'd come from a very logical or critical thinking position. And so opening up emotionally can feel kind of awkward on an unconscious level for you. So your key to spiritual, emotional growth in this lifetime is opening up your feelings in order to feel that deeper connection with the higher source energy. So big part of your job is learning how to not judge or invalidate your feelings, but rather seeing them as part of the information that you need to move forward successfully in the world. It's not everything, but it's also something you don't want to discount. They also count. So learning how to validate your own feelings and see them as valuable is a big part of your spiritual growth work. And when you do this, it naturally allows you to hold space for others' emotional. So we can only really give other people what we're giving ourselves. And by being able to hold that space for yourself and say, okay, this is how I feel. These feelings are valid. What do I need? How do I address this? It naturally allows you to be more comfortable with other people expressing themselves emotionally, and you don't feel so lost or awkward when having to deal with an emotional situation with another. If your moon is in Aquarius, you can know that in one or many past lives, you had a lifetime living in a more communal situation, and this can include close-knit communities, monasteries, and harems, anything where people were close together and living in a very communal way. And that energy flows with you into this lifetime. So you have an unconscious need to be in mental, emotional harmony with the group around you. The vibe of the area around you is very important in this lifetime, because that's your unconscious connection to a sense of a close-knit community. So it wouldn't be uncommon for you to pay attention to the neighborhoods that you live in, or feel like the neighborhood is a good fit for you. That's very important with a moon in Aquarius. Aquarius Moon also has an unconscious tendency to compromise their own needs in order to stay in harmony with a group, very similar to what Libra went through. So again, sort of a downplaying what your needs are just to keep the peace with everyone, keep harmony, and keep everyone happy, even if you're individually suffering at some level. So one of the things you are here to learn is learn how to meet your own needs in a creative way, recognizing that having your needs met isn't taking away from your community, but rather strengthening it by strengthening you on an individual level first. And then what you have taken in for yourself, you will have more to share with others. The key to your emotional spiritual growth is focusing on the common good, to learn how to use the tools that life has given you to experiment, to play, and to create something that will benefit the greater group at large. So this could be your immediate family, it could be your current community or could be humanity itself. You have this natural ability to sort of tap in what is good for the group just because you have a vibrational memory of that sort of collective group energy and what sort of keeps the group going and working together. You can tap into that now and allow it to lead you. Just remember that you still want to make sure you're getting your own needs met while you're developing something that is going to meet the needs of many. If you have a moon in Pisces, you can know that you had one or many past lives where you most likely were in like a convent or a monastery or some kind of cloister situation where you had all your needs met, where you had all of your needs met for you. You were sort of in a daily routine. It was, someone bangs the gong to wake you up, then they banged a gong to meditate, now you eat, stuff like that. So it was your day-to-day concerns, your survival needs were already met. Because of those monastic experiences, you also learned that you didn't need a lot from the physical world in order to feel deep sense of fulfillment. And the journey was really about going within and really meeting yourself at that deep level. And so you bring that vibration forward with you into this life. Because of that, you might also have an unconscious energy of being sort of disappointed that humanity doesn't meet its ideals, because maybe in those meditations or deep visional, those deeper inner self experiences, you felt the energy of humanity's potential, what it's meant to be. And so there's a sense of being like disillusioned as you come into this life. Like, what happened? Like, what did everybody, where'd they all go wrong? Like, why aren't they getting it? That can be an unconscious energy that plays out. So that means in some relationships, you might idealize people. You might idealize a romantic partner or parents or friends, and you might find yourself unconsciously feeling disappointment that they're not meeting the role at the level that you can see them meeting it at. You're also accustomed to sort of living in this timeless reality when all of your needs are met and there's no rush or struggle, and you're allowed to go deeper within yourself to really tap into that deep spiritual center. You lose track of a sense of time or reality as others experience it, and everything's sort of there for you. And when you come into this life, you might also seek that or want that feeling back. But this life is very much about how can you bring support to others so that they may experience the spiritual journey. So with a Pisces moon, there's very much a karmic element to it. It was kind of like, okay, we took care of you that time. It's your turn to take care of us. So those with the Pisces moon are here to hold the space, to be of service, to allow others to go deeper into their spiritual selves. And when we do this, we feel very aligned. We feel very much at peace. And when we don't, we feel as though we suffer, like we're deeply missing the point and we feel confused and lost until we learn to hold this spiritual space for others. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to become a spiritual teacher or spout spiritual truths. It just simply means that, like, hey, why don't you go and meditate? I'll do the dishes right now, is an example of it. Or just reminding people of a higher power connecting them, watching over them, and protecting them, knowing that the day-to-day needs will get met and you can help be there for that. With that, let's do some karma cards. So if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel, what do you need right now? Are you looking for action-related guidance, or are you looking to see at how things resolve over the next week? And of course, you can always choose both. And the timing for this reading is December 21st through December 28th. And let's look at the flavor. Okay, we've got the planet Mars, so planet of action. Just a quick note, at this current moment in time, Mars is currently in retrograde. So this is going to be really interesting because any action that we're taking during this window is sort of more internalized action than an external action. In the sign of Capricorn, which today, the 21st of December, is the start of Capricorn season. So I think that's really cool. It showed up there. In the 6th house of service and health. For those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to energize your goals as a full-time job. Man, this goes right in alignment with the moon, the new moon that's coming up, and what I was saying earlier about this being a great new moon for really fine-tuning, honing in, and feeling into the goals you'd like to create for 2023. So again, it's asking you to give it energy and make it the focal point right now. Make it your full-time job at this time to really tune into those goals. Mental action at this time. Confront the day-to-day reality of service. When I asked my team about what does this mean, they're talking about the fact that we can idealize being of service to others. If you're familiar with ascension and understanding concepts like the law of one, then we know that service to others is the path that we want to be on. It leads to the highest timeline. And all of that information is very idealistic. It's where we're going to go. But the day-to-day realities of being of service to others, it shows up not in the big things that we do, but in the choices that we're making at any current moment. For example, I think it's in the book Living the Law of One, Carla Ruckert, she talks about a small act being a service to others act. For example, if you're making a sandwich and your partner says, hey, can I have half of that sandwich? And you were to cut the sandwich in half and one side was slightly bigger than the other and you're feeling really hungry. If you were to take the bigger half and give the other half, it doesn't mean you're not sharing, but it's not quite service to others because you're serving your own needs first there. I'm really hungry. I want the bigger piece. So by recognizing they're hungry too, I'll give them the bigger piece. That would be a service to others act. But if you give them the bigger piece and then you point out to them, look, I love you so much, I gave you the bigger piece, it immediately goes back into service to self. So the day-to-day reality of it is you can be of service at almost any time. And what we're looking at is the purity of intention, which sometimes gets missed. Sometimes we're so into showing it that we lessen the purity of the intention. So this is asking us to pay attention to that. Look at that. Is this what you're doing here? Are you trying to get attention or seek validation for being of service to others? Are you truly doing a selfless act? And these selfless acts, remember, in order to be service to others, you don't have to abandon yourself and your needs. That's never called for. We don't have to become martyrs. We don't always have to give the bigger slice of the sandwich to someone else. It's, again, the purity of intention. If you were starving and you were willing to share your sandwich, but you took the bigger piece, if you're taking it because I need to make sure my needs are met so I could be there for someone else, that's purity of intention. It's just this little things that we're being asked to look at to get really clear on it. Physical action at this time. Force yourself to use the most business-like way and do it a little at a time. When I ask the team, what do you mean by business-like way? What I get is what they refer to is the kind of business where you're getting your needs met by seeing where the needs of someone else needs to be met, right? That's what business is about, seeing the hole in the market, if you will, and fulfilling that hole. And by doing so, you get a return, right? So seeing what someone needs, fulfilling that need, and getting a return is a business-like way. So if I were to say that, I would say it says force yourself. That's Mars talking. It's asking you to use the way that you're creating a win to receive a win, and do it a little bit at a time, right? So this isn't about big, broad gestures right now. This is about the small day-to-day stuff that we're being asked to sort of look at with I asking us to look at the small everyday details through the lens of a greater outcome. What's the greater outcome here? All right, now let's look at outcomes for Mars in Capricorn in the 6th house of health and service. The spiritual outcome at this time is the drive for dedication to achieve service to others. That's pretty straightforward right there. They're laying it out. This is how we develop that drive that's going to give us dedication to achieve service to others. Mental action at this time. The confronting of focusing on what is good for us. So it's a really interesting way to say it because, again, with Mars being in there, it's like, look at this, like pay attention, like focus in, and you have to look at this is how Mars speaks to us through this. Focusing on what is good for us is different than focusing on what we want, right? So again, it's like you might want to drink coffee and wine all day because that's enjoyable, or it can be enjoyable for some. But what's good for you is to make sure you're getting, 8+ cups of water in if you need it. Like the minute difference there. It's not as much fun. It's not as flashy. It's not as exciting, but it's what's good for you and it's what's going to keep you going. So again, focusing on what's good for you right now is a major theme as we're wrapping up this year. It's going to connect you with those authentic goals as well. So we want to pay attention to that and make sure we're incorporating those elements into the goals we set for ourselves. And just to be clear, it doesn't mean we're going extreme on those goals either, right? It's not, this is not a period of extreme shifting where it's like, I'm going to lose this much weight, or I'm going to go really hard. I'm going to do this every day. It's rather about how can I incrementally increase what is good for me in my life and do it a little bit at a time. Those kind of goals are longer lasting and end up becoming the lifestyle versus becoming sort of a fad or a crash plan. Physical outcome at this time. Action resulting from the rules imposed by your work. The work they're alluding to here isn't necessarily the work you do for a living, but the work that you have to put in to achieve something, really, like achieve the goal or the effort that it takes to sort of become more conscious and aware of how you're of service to people. That's the kind of work it's talking about, and action regarding the rules. So I'm going to go back to the example I had with the sandwich. There were sort of rules implied there about understanding when it's truly a selfless act and understanding the difference between a selfless act and looking like it's a selfless act. And so there's a rule there, right? The rule is it can't be about what you get. It has to be about what you give, right? So there's the rules of this work. Can't be about what you're getting. It has to be about what you're giving. And then, again, the action taking might be more internalized right now, just where action energy is at. Mars retrograde, our actions are still really internalized, but it's asking us to consider how we'll take action based on the rules of the work we're trying to do. I hope you've enjoyed this week's karma cards. I'm sending you so much love. If I don't see you before Christmas, have a beautiful Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season for everyone. And I will definitely see you before the new year with my crystal divination for the year of 2023. Sending you so much love. Mwah.